It's no surprise that social media only shows the good side of someone's life. Instagram or TikTok influencers rarely show their problems, fears, or worries, and instead focus on their wealth and social status. Expensive clothing, glam events, and carefully arranged food all contribute to this false image of success that many people follow and desire. This was the case with Alexis Sharkey. She was extremely popular on Instagram, and her usual posts would include marketing for high-end brands and an image of a perfect life, with a perfect job and a perfect husband by her side. Who could want her dead, one might ask? Well, John Lennon's killer was a passionate fan, so anything is possible. But in Alexis Sharkey's case, her murder is still a mystery, 9 months after it happened. Who could have done such a cruel thing, and why? Let's look into the unsolved murder of Alexis Sharkey. In January 1994, Alexis Leigh Robinell was born to parents Stacy and Michael. She grew up with her parents and 2 sisters, Toby and Riley, in Youngsville, Pennsylvania. She was a bright person who got high grades throughout all her school years. During high school, she was a member of the National Honor Society, and her achievements continued throughout her college years at the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford. She graduated in the top 2% of her class, with a major in biology with minors in nutrition and psychology. According to her family, Alexis was always interested in learning about new topics, including other cultures and countries. This fueled her desire to travel the world, and she promised herself that in the following years, she would make enough money to get to see all the continents. Her friends and family always told her that they were confident she would be successful in whatever she did, due to her ambitious and knowledge-thirsty qualities. Soon after graduating from college in 2016, Alexis moved to Odessa, Texas, with plans to work a casual job and relax in her spare time, as she said she was very tired after her 3 years at university. At the time, she was thinking she would continue med school, but only after a few years of taking a break. Unfortunately, her plans never really came to fruition. She got her first job at a chain sports bar called Twin Peaks. The chain's outfits resemble those at Hooters. The waitress's tops and skirts are pretty revealing. But Alexis liked this, as she knew she was a very social person who thrived in social settings and large groups of people. Alexis made a lot of friends at the sports bar who said they especially admired her warmth and energy. Her new friends also helped her go through a difficult time, as she had previously been engaged and recently broken it off. At the time, her and her ex-fiancé were not doing so good, so I kind of stepped in and helped her get out of that. Odessa was a fresh start for Alexis, from all points of view. Working at Twin Peaks had more perks than a steady income and a friendly environment for Alexis. It's there that she met Tom Sharkey, her future husband. Tom was a regular customer at Twin Peaks, and Alexis clicked with him right off the bat. Tom was double her age. He had been married and divorced at least once before meeting Alexis, and had 2 children almost the same age as her. But at least on social media, it didn't seem like the age difference was causing any trouble. In fact, Alexis often posted images and descriptions that painted Tom like the perfect husband, at least for a while. Tom worked with an oil company at the time. This allowed him to travel far and wide a few times each year. This was something that interested Alexis greatly. Alexis was growing more and more exhausted from working at Twin Peaks all the time. She even had some other side jobs to make ends meet and started to feel like a big burnout was right around the corner. Financially supported by Tom, Alexis decided to lay low for a while and try something a bit more entrepreneurial. She quit her jobs and got invested in Monat, a cosmetics company with a very controversial history. The company was founded in 2014 in Doral, Florida, by Rainer and Louis Urdonata. It specializes in hair care, skin care, and hygiene products for pets as well as people. But Monat has been the subject of many lawsuits and complaints to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Customers reported hair damage, balding, scalp sores, and, as if these weren't enough, difficulty in ending product purchases. In March 2019, a federal report found that many of Monat's products were prepared, packaged, or held in unsanitary conditions whereby they may have become contaminated with filth. Moreover, following a lawsuit in October 2019, it was discovered that Monat was creating its products with contaminated chemicals, therefore ruining them from the very start. And it gets even creepier. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Business Insider found that Monat behaved predatorily, targeting millions of newly unemployed Americans with coronavirus anxiety to make them join the company. Even though the company was already going through serious legal issues at the time, Alexis joined as a seller, soon becoming a distributor and even recruiter for the company. This is quite a surprising fact, considering that most people who join MLMs or pyramid schemes end up losing money. In fact, recent studies showed that 95% of people who get caught up in pyramid schemes lose money, and only 0.5% make big profits from the work. In just a few months, Alexis climbed so high up in the company that she earned herself a free car and a vacation to the Bahamas. In 2017, she had an executive director position at Monat, and according to their website, she was making around $34,000 a month. Alexis could now live her dream of traveling the world. And her Instagram account started reflecting that. Expensive holidays, red carpet clothing, and VIP events showed up in all her posts, and she was gaining hundreds of followers every day. Alexis avoided using the term influencer about herself, preferring to call herself a businesswoman or mentor. However, most of her Instagram posts followed the same recipe: an image that depicts the perfect life, a text meant to recruit people into Monat. She often presented joining Monat as following your dream. Through joining, you could have the perfect life she had. So most of the time, Alexis worked just from her phone. Her phone was basically her office. She never went anywhere without it, and she posted to her stories like every few hours. At the beginning of 2019, Alexis and Tom decided to move to Colorado so they could enjoy the natural beauty. Both of them loved hiking, so Colorado seemed like the right place to perfect the skill. In June 2019, Alexis and Tom went on a trip to Tagnock Falls. There, Tom proposed to Alexis. In December 2019, they got married in a small courthouse in Colorado. They then decided to move back to Texas, this time to Houston. Moving around a lot during her adult years, Alexis never really got to have any best friends. Her friends, at least from judging from her posts, were her work and party colleagues from Monat. Once in Houston, Alexis signed up on Bumble BFF, a version of a Bumble dating app that's focused on finding non-romantic friends. One of Alexis's first friends was Tanya Ricardo, a newly divorced mom who was also looking for fresh friends at the time. One evening, Tanya invited Alexis over for dinner, and there she met Tanya's group of friends, who apparently loved her and included her in their group straight away. She now had a group of new friends made out of Tanya's friends and Alexis's friends from Monat. They would hang out together frequently, and they all seemed to get along pretty well. But more than they would meet in person, they would chat online. And as Alexis had her phone with her 24/7 for work, she would always be the first one to reply to any message or the one to initiate get-togethers the most. When 2020 came, it came with an event that changed everyone's lives. The COVID-19 pandemic meant that people had to stay at home and limit all sorts of physical contact with other people. Among other things that happened that year, Alexis decided to join TikTok to expand her sales. This gained her even more followers with a much quicker algorithm than Instagram. But although Alexis had been working from home before the pandemic as well, something made her lose her spark. Her husband Tom confesses she wasn't happy. She was stressed. There was always other sides to everything. But Tom's side of the story may not be enough for getting to the bottom of the story. According to her new friends, Alexis hardly ever mentioned Tom during their chats, or brought him to any of their trips into town or outside. In fact, recent information has come to light, and it seems like Alexis was seriously considering divorce at the time. According to her friends, she and Tom had split their bank accounts, and that divorce papers had already been drawn up, waiting to be signed. This information goes hand in hand with a darker aspect of the story. Following her death, 3 of her friends gathered in front of a camera and mourned her loss. One of her friends spoke about Alexis being scared for her safety during her last months. I looked at her and I was like, she's petrified. This girl is scared for her life. Was Alexis's fear because she was planning to divorce Tom and didn't know how to handle the situation? Was Tom an aggressive person? Or was there something else she was hiding from him? In her last post on Instagram, uploaded just 6 days before her death, Alexis writes about changing towns again. Good morning. Today, I decided I'm moving to Tulum for the sinks and overall aesthetic. I've never been so obsessed with the vibe of a town in my life. Could this have been an actual plan of hers? Move to Tulum in Mexico and avoid Tom or the person she was scared of? No one knows just how serious Alexis was when she wrote that post, or if she was just emphasizing how much she liked it there. But regardless of the answer, something strange happened on that trip. While in Tulum, Alexis met Houston DJ Sebastian Marmolejo. Friends and acquaintances say that the two hit it off. It's unknown to what extent Alexis and Sebastian became a thing, but something definitely happened between the two. On the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Alexis spoke on the phone with her mom, and she explained to her that she was not going to go home to celebrate Thanksgiving with them. It had been a year since Alexis was in Pennsylvania and saw her family last time, more than ever before. Alexis returned to Houston just in time for Thanksgiving. That morning, Alexis shared a quick meal with Tom before heading out to spend Thanksgiving at one of her friends' houses. Some people speculate that this was already a strange decision for Alexis to avoid spending Thanksgiving with her new husband. Maybe the two weren't getting along that well anymore, or maybe there was more to it than that. Alexis and her friends stayed at the house until about midnight, and then they went out to a bar to keep the party alive. Sebastian, who was back in Houston as well, drove her and her friends to the bar. At this point, the truth about the two was pretty much out. Alexis got home at about 3 a.m. This was already Black Friday. This normally meant for Alexis that she would be online all day trying to sell as many of her products as possible. As we mentioned before, she would have her phone 24/7 on her, and she would always check her messages and post multiple times a day. Except on Friday, November 27th, 2020. There were no signs of Alexis on the internet. At least not until 5:30 p.m. when she messaged her friends' group chat asking if anybody had plans that evening. Well, they did, as this was Thanksgiving weekend and everyone was spending quality time with their families. To this day, it's not known whether it was really Alexis who sent this message or if she was already dead at this point. However, this was the last time there was any contact between Alexis and her friends. Later that day, Tom texted John, the boyfriend of Chelsea, one of Alexis's close friends, to ask him if he had seen Alexis anywhere or if he knew about her whereabouts. John found it weird that they were texting about something so serious, so he ended up calling Tom at around 11 p.m. What followed was a 45-minute-long phone call conversation between the two of them, with some disturbing details. According to Tom, he and Alexis had had a bad argument where she stormed out of the house. Then he says she climbed over a fence and got into a black car which he didn't recognize. That was the last time Tom saw his wife. Tom proceeded to use the Find My Friends feature on his phone to try to track Alexis down. According to him, he drove around for a while until he lost service. Then he stopped at a gas station to gather his thoughts. He then notified Stacy, Alexis's mom, about her daughter's disappearance. At first, they decided to wait and see if she would come home on her own. Tom was expecting her to have gone off with one of her friends, angry from the argument they'd had. But the truth would prove to be much darker. The next day, Saturday, Alexis's friends still didn't know she was missing, so they didn't get that worried when they got no reply to an invitation to a movie night. They assumed her phone was broken or something similar, and they went on with the movie night. But Alexis never turned up, nor did she text back the whole day. Tanya checked her social media accounts and found that she hadn't posted anything for over 12 hours. This was very unusual for her, who would always be the first one to answer her phone or post on an Instagram story. Finally, her friends got worried enough to contact Tom and Stacy. This was when Stacy called the police and Alexis's friends filed a missing persons report. Apart from the police, Stacy and Alexis's friends also took to social media to ask for any information on her whereabouts. Please help us find her and bring her home safely. We are so very desperate. Please share. Unfortunately, no one knew anything, and none of Alexis's friends said they picked her up in the black car that Tom was talking about, or that they were with her the day before. It wasn't until the next day that the mystery would dissolve into pain and loss. A garbage truck was driving down a rural road when its driver spotted feet sticking out of a bush on the side of the road. It was Alexis. She was unclothed and lifeless, and her body was positioned so weirdly that the drivers actually thought she was a mannequin. The first driver didn't even stop. He just called his supervisor to go check it out, as he thought it made no sense that a mannequin should be thrown on the side of the road like that. It was his supervisor that realized what it truly was they had found. Perhaps, even more strangely, her body showed no signs of harm. We just done and we're looking and I'm looking, but there ain't no visible wounds. It's like she just got out of the tub. Her body was clean. While the truth about her disappearance was finally out, Alexis's family was devastated. Tom was the first one who found out because he was called by the police and brought in to identify the body. Then he notified Alexis's parents and friends. Stacy thanked the internet for the love extended during this whole thing. It's with deeply broken hearts that Mike and I want to let you all know that Lexi's body has been found. We cannot begin to thank you for all your love and the kind words you've extended to our family. Please give us this time to grieve this incredible loss to our family and this world. The police took the body and went on to perform an autopsy. It was soon clear that Alexis had died from strangulation. It's living your worst nightmare ever, truly. The investigators first looked at Tom as the main suspect. A study conducted by the World Health Organization in 2018 showed that 35% of all female homicides are carried out by their partners, with most of the homicides occurring in Texas. The police brought in Tom for questioning, and the man denied any involvement in the murder. However, Tom's behavior around the questions definitely raises some eyebrows. His story about the last time he and Alexis saw each other changed multiple times. First, he said she left in a black car. Then he said she left on foot. In another interview, he said Alexis was wearing sneakers at the time of her storming out of the house. Then he changed it to no shoes. Why would Alexis run out of the house without any shoes on? Then, when Stacy wanted her daughter's body moved from Houston to her hometown for the funeral, Tom ghosted her and refused to release Alexis's body to her family. Stacy told Crime Online that Tom was initially cooperative, then almost suddenly, he changed his attitude and decided he didn't want to return his wife's body to her parents. Tom Sharkey was listed as next of kin and had sole control over his wife's body. After 2 weeks of inaction, the medical examiner changed Alexis Sharkey's next of kin from her husband to her mother. Finally, Alexis's family was able to bring her body home without Tom's help, and they were able to say goodbye the right way. I haven't worked out those details yet of what will happen when she can be released and we can get our hands on our daughter one last time. While Alexis's family was very vocal during the first month after the crime, they have been very quiet since. There may be a logical reason behind this. Alexis's case is still very new, and a lot of information about it is kept private by the police, so it doesn't damage the integrity of the case. There's likely a gag order issued for all parties involved in the case. Although Tom's stories are not exactly in sync, it could be argued that he's under a lot of stress. He has been cooperating fully with the police, and he is no longer a prime suspect. However, he has been receiving a lot of hate and death threats online, with people writing, "Inmates have a special treatment for pigs like you," and "I hope you get death row." During the last months, Tom has gone private on social media, but not before writing a few emotional posts about losing Alexis. "Baby, please give me strength. Do you remember when we talked and joked about getting old and I said, that's the one thing you would never beat me at? And we laughed so hard because you're so competitive." Alexis's mother, Stacy, told Eyewitness News that she doesn't want to talk about the ongoing investigation. She says that her and her husband Mike are always thinking about their daughter, and they remain optimistic a break in the case will come soon. We're encouraged by everything the police are doing on behalf of getting justice for Alexis. But it's not just Alexis's family that has been awfully silent the last few months. The Houston Police Department and the Harris County District Attorney's Office both declined ABC 13's invitation to speak about Alexis's case in a sit-down interview on camera. The DA's office said they don't comment on pending investigations. HPD said this remains an active case as they're working to find Alexis's killer or killers. They assured the reporters that the case is very much ongoing and that generally a case only becomes cold 3 years after they've exhausted all leads and investigative tools. Mark Stevens, a private investigator who previously spent nearly 30 years in law enforcement, spoke to ABC 13 about the many aspects of a complicated case like Alexis Sharkey's. First of all, he said, building a criminal case against a suspect can take time, or sometimes even years. While Stevens is not tied to Alexis's case, he said that the fact that her body was naked means that her killer didn't want to get caught. However, it's strange that they dumped her body out in the open like that. It doesn't sound like the best way to not get caught. Somebody wanted to get rid of the evidence, because what they are going to look for is DNA. You get one shot. If you don't get this right, the guy walks. There's double jeopardy. He can never be charged again. That's right, the police can't just go and arrest everyone they have a slight suspicion about. Well, you might say social media might help, right? Lots of people followed Alexis, so they might help with the investigation. Stevens says it's quite the opposite. If there's new tips and new evidence coming in, of course that's a help. If it's just to voice frustration because it's not done yet, that's a hindrance. Nobody goes into homicide just for the glory. You go into that because you want to find justice for these victims. Tom Berg, a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor with the Harris County District Attorney's Office, said detectives and prosecutors want to make sure a case is solid before bringing a criminal charge against a suspect. He explains that there can be a lot of pressure to resolve a case quickly because society grew used to television where all cases are solved in an hour or less. Simply closing the case quickly is not necessarily justice. So while fans and former followers of Alexis are demanding quick results and justice for the influencer, they might not be exactly right rushing the police. Due to the current secrecy of the investigation, it's unknown just how deep into the case the investigators have gone, or how close to the killer they are. What is certain right now is that Alexis still has thousands of people following her story breathlessly. We hope that we will one day solve the mystery behind Alexis Sharkey's murder. And that's the end of our video. What do you think about Alexis Sharkey's death? Who do you think is most likely the killer? And should the police be going about it in another way? Write us a comment and let us know what other bone-chilling murder stories you'd like us to cover next. If you liked our video, why not click the like button? And of course, if you want more hair-curling stories in your life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.